Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. This is Markets in the Morning. Let's go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Welcome to Markets in the Morning. Today is Wednesday, September 4th, 2024. This is Markets in the Morning, where we take a look at the price action of the cryptocurrency market, including the Bitcoin price chart, along with the altcoin market. Take a peek over there at the United States stock market as it gets set to open in the next 2 minutes, along with precious metals like gold and silver, and the DXY, or the US dollar currency index. Of course, we'll peek at some other charts as well. And we'll take a peek over there at any type of financial news or crypto news that's going on out there in the world today as we get ready to kick off this fine Wednesday. I saw Greg, like the most famous guy on Twitter, rank days in order of worst to best. And the day that came in just behind Friday and Saturday was Wednesday. So of best days. So happy Wednesday, everybody.
It is Wednesday, my It is Wednesday,
All right, so let's dive on in. Welcome to Markets in the Morning, everybody. Here we go. Bitcoin sitting at 56,485. We've got a little bit of a lower low happening right in here. I've been peeking around the market. Of course, we're living in such a interesting time. Of course, we all know that, with no expansion happening in here. And I've been paying attention to a couple of people. I've seen so many people saying $54,000, the place to watch. Beyond my pay grade to see that. But I've seen people that are respected in the world saying that's been the area to watch for. So we'll see how that goes there for Bitcoin. Of course, as we all know, we're approaching big things coming in the market here just this week. So in 2 days from right now, on Friday, the big unemployment report expected to come out. Of course, crypto, I don't know why it's a debate, tied to macro markets, right? So we'll see how macro markets respond on Friday when that data comes out in here. We are approaching the longest period for Bitcoin. I believe we've gone beyond it for altcoins. We'll take a peek over there on the longest periods ever for this market to wake up for the altcoin market. Bitcoin here in just a couple of days is going to reach its threshold, which I believe is September 9th. It will be the longest we've ever seen without Bitcoin going into a bull run. So that's what we're going to be watching for here in the coming days. Put out a video yesterday and I was just kind of like, I don't know if there's much more I could say about that. It's like trying to wait for vacation to start and time just starts slowing down tremendously and you become hyper focused on that one particular thing. That's kind of where I'm at right now, just kind of waiting to get through the unemployment data. I think CPI is going to come in fantastic. It's more of just that unemployment. Is that going to start signaling recession, or do things kind of chill out in there? And how macro markets respond at that moment right there. And knowing that this is the longest we've ever gone for Bitcoin, with it following along precisely the whole way for the last 3 years to get to this moment. This is the big question on whether or not we're going to see expansion happening right on time, or how things are going to play out. So, of course, it's all just waiting to get through the, what did I call it? Chasm, I think last week. Cham. But all right, so that's just kind of where we're at, just kind of a patience waiting game in here to see that. And we'll see how prices can hold themselves in here. I've seen a lot of focus there on 54,000. We'll see how that goes. RTY, as the market's now open, the United States stock market now opens. Of course, here we are with the Russell, not able to get through expansion just yet. We'll see how the data comes out on Friday. It looks like the markets are doing a little bit better than they were in pre-market. If you caught yesterday, who couldn't catch yesterday? It was an absolute bloodbath sell-off in the United States stock market, with Nvidia down like 10%. Looks like it's down another 2.5% here as we start the day off. Coinbase down 2.7%, with Amazon down 1.5%. Looks like Ford, United Health, Tesla, Google, Netflix slightly up in here, but later this morning is Ford. So of course, as we are in this is something we'll talk on, just the complexities of broader markets right now, right? Of course, is all the discussion of being with rates where they're at and all this. This is nothing new to you guys, especially in markets in the morning, because we pretty much covered the same things every day as we were doing markets in the morning every day for a year, talking about the same things over and over again, discussing this phenomenon to happen in here. Like, this is pre-great financial crisis, right? And of course, this is where we're at. We're all waddling around in here. If you don't know, right in here, this is where the Fed finally came out and pivoted. They came out and said, all right, we'll do an emergency rate cut right in here. Of course, right here, this is where the Fed comes out and says that they are going to be cutting at the next meeting. So this one was more of an emergency style cut. This one is the announcement that the cuts are actually going to be coming. This one happens really after the bloodbath is already set in. This one happens a couple of days before that. Sell-off happens back there on August 5th. So, of course, this is now the main focus to make sure this is not what's going to end up playing out here in markets, as we're still waiting for some resolution to come. And I think Friday's job reports really is the big thing. And when we get to the news, you're going to see you're going to see rate cuts. The last year and a half has been what? Bullish rate cuts, right? And then now the narrative is, wait a minute, are rate cuts actually bearish? These are things we're waiting on, right? So, of course, we've been in a pause. We've talked all about this. That is how it played out here back in this, right? So this is essentially just taken from here is what we've all watched. We were in there. There comes the emergency Fed rate cut right in here, rallies to the new high, and then off into oblivion it goes. No signs of that yet happening for the Dow yet, but of course, on edge for like there's some type of market rotation that happens in here and playing around in here. And does it like fit into a timeline of really there only being kind of 2 months of washing machining happening in the market and euphoria in some places, sell-offs in others? We talked in yesterday about growth versus value. I personally think that the growth trade is done. It's overran. And I think we're probably seeing that over there in Nvidia, down back to 106. What did it get back up to? It got back up to 130 when it was bouncing around, but now back down to 105, 106. So watch yesterday's video if you want to see more about that. But of course, this is the thing that just keeps me uneasy, right? And I think just getting through Friday will be nice. Can we please just get to Friday and then see how the market reacts from that moment forward? That's what would be really, really nice. Coinbase, of course, right? I mean, like this thing, of course, gets back to its retracements. Total failure at the retracement levels. This is what we've seen in markets, crypto markets. This is what we've seen in broader markets, that it just hasn't been an expansion in the whole market. Still waiting for some sign of life to come in here for these things, but not looking great for Coinbase. Total rejection there at the retracement levels. No signs of life there yet, that's for sure. Moving on. So the Dow is up today 74 points, Nasdaq's down 91, S&P's down 8, the Russell is down 9. So there you go with your Russell. Nothing, waiting for Friday. How are we going to react on Friday? But Bitcoin 56.5. The big dates are coming up on us here in the next few days. We'll see how that all resolves itself in there. As for the altcoins, we've talked about this, the longest period ever. This is the longest period post-capitulation. So this market has never gone this long ever post-capitulation for rallies to take place. Of course, this is 2021. We all know we're way past what 2021 was, or 2018, 2019, 2020, and into 2021. This market was rallying way on beyond that at this point already, post-capitulation, looking from the lens of being like 2014, 15, 16, and 17, crossed through the chasm of time post-capitulation. The only saving grace in regards to how much time it's been or cycles and that whole stuff is really if you just go from peak to peak or peak to trough right there, there's your peak. You still have until September 9th for the total amount of time, but then it would become the longest ever from peak, from capitulation, whatever you want. It's the longest ever. What's so interesting about September 9th? Of course, it lines up with all of this. That is also right on point of the expansions in here for Bitcoin for the longest ever at the same time. So again, it's like me being hyper focused, like I'm talking about the videos, talking about live streams. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, it's so on edge right now. Are we going to get through the unemployment? Are we going to signal a recession? Are we not going to signal a recession? And if not, is the market going to be convinced it's a soft landing? I don't think the market gives two rats about CPI. I don't, because we've talked about this all year long, that by the time we got to these next two reports before the election, that's when we would see the bigger drop happening over there in CPI. There's no way the market doesn't know that we're going to drop to 2.4, 2.5, 2.6 CPI at the next one. And then the one after that, before the election happens, there's no way the market doesn't know we're not going to drop to 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, right? That's what's coming down the pike when it comes to CPI. The market right now, I don't think it gives two rats about that anymore. It is 100% hyper-focused on, is unemployment still going to spiral out of control? Because if unemployment starts spiraling out of control, because every time it does this, it leads to a recession. If it can chill out and there's some positive signs in unemployment happening here when that next report comes out, well, then now we're kind of setting things up in here where we already know CPI is taken care of. If you don't know that, it is. But, is unemployment okay? And we've covered that really in my last two videos, and I get it. I could see the numbers in there. People are like, "Let's not talk about unemployment," but that's just kind of the reality of it in there to make sure we are not in the craziest times of our lives, right? We are not living in something like this, because this has been a discussion for over a year. We talked all about that this all happened during the Fed pause. All of that happened during Fed pause back in 2006, 7, and 8, 2006 and 7. Fed cut. Everything went to crap. Here we go. All this happens during the Fed pause. Fed's going to cut. Everything will be okay. If unemployment is spiraling out of control, I don't know how we don't look at it through this lens right in here. So unemployment is, of course, the indicator of recession. So that's what we're going to be focusing on for Friday. Again, hyper-focused on that. But either way, September 9th, which is Monday, is going to be peak to longest period without an expansion happening in the market, or at least a liftoff happening in the market. You can see things like XRP, they are beyond longest, no matter which one we want to use. If we want to use XRP's true peak from back on April 14th, which is the true peak of Bitcoin, or even if we want to use the peak of Elon Musk being on Saturday Night Live, here you go. That one is interesting because this marker right here in 2015, this is the actual bottom of the market. Let's go back and do this really quick. I will show you that. I'll add Bitcoin on top. Bitcoin. As you can see right here, this is the capitulation bottom of Bitcoin in here. I don't like that we keep doing this. There. Right. That is the actual capitulation moment of the market. Right here. This guy. So that actually does align with, like, most of the market, like we're talking about with Litecoin and stuff, right? Where does Litecoin end up peaking? And this is true for like 90% of your altcoins out there. It tops here in May, right? May what? May 8th, May 9th. Why is that important? That's because for our calendar, May 8th, May 9th is Sunday, right? Sunday, May 9th. But you have to remember that the clock in the United States, it rolls over depending on where you live. Something 5, 6, 7, 8 p.m. is when it rolls over. But that's also the period where Saturday Night Live. So while it's Saturday night in the United States, the clock on the charts is Sunday, right? So Elon Musk on Saturday Night Live marks our peak, right? So lining those up in those events, well, what did we just talk about? Showing where the true bottom of the market was back in 2015. It was right there, right? That's what just happened here, right there, right? You're going to get where I'm going with this. So even peak Saturday Night Live, there you go. That was the marker of capitulation. That's the marker of capitulation. Notice that's the low for XRP here. The timing of those from Saturday Night Live to the capitulation and the actual true bottom, they line up on the exact day. Guess what? We're beyond the most time ever. So that's where you're at. That's why August was so interesting, because we were going to run into these time periods of, hey, look, like we're going to hit these moments of this is the longest ever happening for these things post capitulation. And even in the circumstances of like XRP, even post peak now. As for Litecoin, or if we look at it through that lens of peak to whatever, you actually still have a few days for it to be the longest ever. And then for Bitcoin, of course, we still have a couple of days. So this thing has to essentially turn up in a rapid way to catch up on time. And we'll see if Bitcoin's cycles come to an end, or does the magical unicorn fairy dust click in like it has for 3 years? We'll see. All right. Now, this is the thing that keeps the hope alive for me, and it keeps the dream alive. Of course, there's all these things and these worries in here of all this stuff happening in here, but no matter how much I stare at it, for me, there's lots of worry. There's lots of concern. It's like, why isn't the Russell broken out? I'm concerned about these recession things, all of that. But I look at this and I say, this has to resolve itself. This has to have a resolution, right? And this shows that the dominance of Bitcoin, the dominance of Ethereum, the dominance of stable coins like USDT and USDC all falling. And this is the thing that says, I don't think I can get out of this market until this thing resolves itself. But if it happened rapidly and in a matter of a couple of weeks and it just fell down here from 80 to 65, I'd have no problem. All right, that's it. Let's go. Recession time. But this has to resolve itself first. As for maybe news that you caught over there on Twitter yesterday, a Trump-backed DeFi project is being launched on Ethereum and Aave. These are some of the topics that we spend quite a bit of time covering over, whether it's development activity, user activity levels, percentage drawdowns, or TVL, right? Total value locked. And why Ethereum? Why Aave, right? Well, you can just look at the total value locked in here. Who's your leader? Well, it's Ethereum. TVL, $45 billion. Second place comes in at Tron with $7 billion. So Ethereum is the place to go. And just Aave in itself, $9.27 billion just in Aave. So you can look at Aave of being $9.27 billion. Well, that's more than even what Tron was right there at 7.83. It's the most common thing for XRP Trump titles to be put out there. So, I'm not surprised to see it go with Ethereum, and I'm definitely not surprised to see it go with Aave. Again, don't fall. I personally don't think people should be falling into the traps of being like anti-Ethereum. This market is literally built on it. And if you can't see that, there's the evidence of it right there. I've harped on that before, but I hope you get to kind of see it there. As for the NDXT, this is another topic that we've covered quite a bit over here in Markets in the Morning. This is another one of those things that we've watched very closely. I talked about this about a month ago. We talked about it in yesterday's video as well. Again, that big tech trade happening over there, the consolidation of tech being the thing that's been propping up the whole market. We can see that it does have all the appearances of what would happen when that has been completed. So doesn't mean it can't just sit here and waddle for God knows how long. But it did exactly all the things that we've talked about. And so this is going to be more for people who watch this in Markets in the Morning, where this is discussed at least 100 times. We had the ABC correction on top of support, goes off, sets the one new high, right? The ABC on the support, the new high, pulls back, and then sets the next high, pulls back, sets the new high. Boom, there's your first lower low happening over there. And then this one right here, this is a perfectly nailed 702 Fibonacci retracement level. So again, another one of those things to add to the bucket of something is up. Well, if, we talk a lot about, in the event of something like this happening, but that it would be short-lived. And market participants tend to think, what are you talking about? It's just starting, bro. That's not typically how it happens. It's usually a wall of worry to get to wherever we're at. Things expand, things get exciting, and then in a matter of a couple of weeks, it's all over. That's typically how it goes. It's kind of like what happened through all of this stuff in here, right? It's a wall of worry to climb all the way up. And then, what are you talking about, bro? It's just starting. Just to keep that in mind. And I know I sound like a giant turd using that voice. But that's what it's like, right? And so, yeah. All right. So there you go. NDXT. There you go. DXY 101.63. Not much to say about that. The range still continues to go on in here. And what are we at? Almost 2 whole years of waddling and ranging back and forth on the DXY. As for gold sits at 24.84. Slight bearish divergence showing up here on gold. Again, another thing keeping the dream alive happening in here. My thoughts are at some point we will come back and back test this level. I'm a big believer in gold. I'm a big investor in gold. So it's not necessarily that I cheer for that or want that. But, for the world not to come to an end, for the sky to not fall in broader markets, it would sure be benefit for that to happen. So, all right, moving on over there to news. Dick's Sporting Goods blows past earnings estimates, but issues cautious guidance ahead of the election. Stock futures fall after the worst S&P 500 day since early August rout. Dollar Tree shares slide after discounter cuts full year. Nvidia down 2% in pre-market trading after plunge that wiped out nearly $300 billion in market cap. Let's check on the stock market and see how it's doing. Looks like crypto is a little bit better than it was right when the market actually ended up opening. How are we doing over here in stocks? You got a few more things in the green. You got Tesla, AMC, GME, Google, Ford, Netflix. Okay. There we go. Now the S&P slips a little bit in the green. The Nasdaq's making a recovery. Nasdaq was down over 100 points in pre-market, now down only 20. Russell still worst performer of the day, waiting for a sign of expansion. And please, dear God, Friday, deliver it to us. As for news, it was really just a massive sell-off that happened over there in markets yesterday, mostly led by big tech. Moving over there to crypto news inside the Trump crypto project, linked to a $2 million DeFi hack and former pickup artist. Bitcoin dives under 56K as Asian equities see red. Well, U.S. equities did too. Mt. Gox wouldn't have happened with modern tools. TradeFi companies want to transact in Bitcoin, says Cantor Fitzgerald CEO. I don't believe that. I don't believe that for 2 seconds. I don't believe anybody. This is where I'm going to sound like a jerk and people hate me. I don't believe anybody wants to transact in Bitcoin. And that's simply because there's no privacy function to it. Simple. Polygon's Matic upgraded to Paul, driving a hyper-productive token utility. Bitcoin price targets include $50,000 as NVIDIA crash shakes Nikkei Gold. Bitcoin, $50,000? Oh yeah, that's right. This is news. And okay, we talked about this in markets in the morning. Like we shouldn't be doing news because it's so triggering for me to read the news on here. But I think it's such a good thing because it just kind of shows you my perspective of what it's like when I do read the news and how it's just total BS. So what is the sentiment of the market? I bet we can pull it up really fast. Let's go see. It's got to be fear or extreme fear. Right, here you go. Here you go. How you feeling? You feeling like that? That's how retail feels right now. So, Bitcoin could hit 50K. Oh no, I'm so scared. So that helps me saying that I should relieve myself of pain. Oh, the cut could make price go down 20%. Wait a minute. Hold up. During the whole green period, we were saying that rate cuts are going to make Bitcoin go up. Now everybody's scared. Oh, let's say it can go down. Signs point to a likely altcoin rout. Okay, then we go to NVIDIA posts historic one-day loss after U.S. antitrust. Here's what happened in crypto today. Why is Bitcoin priced down today? U.S. Fed cut could push price down 20%. Pro-XRP attorney John Deaton wins Republican U.S. Senate primary. Let's go, John Deaton. He smashed it. I think he got 64% of the vote. That he will now be the candidate for Republicans going against Senator Elizabeth Warren. So let's go. Let's go, John. All right, Bitcoin headed for breakout or breakdown? Analysts weigh in. Yeah, well, I mean, we're 6 months removed, so everybody's just beaten up, right? Right. It's getting spicy out there today. That's because it's just, 6 months have passed by, and lots of, that's just how it goes. I would say it's good to be that fearful when the market's this high. I'd say that's good. But let's get through the days. And I feel like I'm on the edge of my seat too, right? I'm on that. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen with the unemployment report? Is that going to be a catalyst? And because I know that most narratives for Bitcoin are total malarkey, a total lie and a grift. And the block reward having catalyst is a grift and a lie. And this is it. And all you have to do is watch my last video to see the evidence of that. It is a broader market expansion that causes it. And that is why we did not expand in the last 6 months, even though ETFs. So Friday, please, dear God, Friday. All right. I think that covers all the news. We went ahead and talked enough trash about news at this point. I think that kind of covers it. So we'll see how things go in the coming week. We'll see how markets position themselves for Friday. And I think that's going to be our big catalyst. Of course, Aave is doing well. Aave had a weird day yesterday. Aave was really down. And then even when the announcement of Trump building on Ethereum and Aave came out, it didn't impact it. And it was likely just because we had to liquidate the market. What was that liquidation? Let me go see. Bitcoin liquidations. How much got liquidated last night? About $150 million were liquidated in that move right there. So there you go. Don't trade on leverage. That will be you one day if you do. All right, so there we go. What are we at? 27 minutes of rambling, all to say, hey, let's see what happens on Friday. But until then, it's Wednesday, the third best day of the week behind Friday and Saturday.
It is Wednesday, my It is Wednesday.
And on that note, that covers everything. We're just going to hop into the chat at this point. Again, Bitcoin, looking for supports. I've seen lots of supports out there. Looking for the Russell, of course, to regain some footing. But I think everything this market is waiting for is coming on Friday. We are approaching September 9th, which ends up marking the longest ever, no matter how we want to measure it for this market, for the longest ever for it to wake up using capitulation points. Late August was our moment, and using peaks, September 9th marks the moment. There's still a hope and a dream, but we're getting really, 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 really close. So we'll see how things go. All right, hopping on into the chat. I saw you guys before the stream even started. Andy and happiest little place in the galaxy. Guys, thank you so much. Andy Philpott had gifted 5 BCB memberships. I appreciate it, brother. And happiest little place in the galaxy. You as well, man. I really, really appreciate it. David, first ever markets in the morning while being in the USA. Member for 12 months. David Card, man, welcome. Jesse Gullick, happy Wednesday, everybody. Thank you, guys. If you could hit the like button, too. It's number one way to support the channel. Of course, appreciate all the super chats and the kind words. Those were wonderful. I really appreciate it. But the number one way is to like the video. All right. Corey says, these are some of the hardest times in markets I've ever experienced. Thanks for guiding us and showing up, BCP. I would completely agree. This is a difficult time. One, prices are down, right? You get back to retraces. Now it's been 6 months since we hit the 702 retracement in the altcoin market. It's been 6 months since Bitcoin euphoria happened. Markets are pulling back. There's a lot of uncertainty out there in broader markets right now, kind of like right at the cusp of seeing, hey, is this market going to get out of here? Or is the entire world going to collapse? We're all just patiently waiting while going the longest ever in history on some of these things. So there's nobody in this market. I don't think there's been a test that has lasted longer than this, right? 2021, the 2018 through 2021 crowd even had it better than this, right? Really did. The only thing that happened with the 2021 crowd that made it difficult before the bull run happened is that we were struck with C19. And so most people didn't believe we could recover out of C19. But structurally, everything said that we could. And I was making YouTube videos during that whole time. So we had a lot of things going for us, right? We were at a zero Fed funds rate. We were seeing expansions happen in markets. We were getting back to retracements and cracking through the retracements, not like what we just saw recently. So it was a lot different in 2021 from timing and just the things. The big marker was the difficulty of that. It was March of 2020 when we got the absolute slam happen to the market where it dropped 70, like everything dropped 70% in 3 days. That was a difficult point because then it was real hard for the market to find any way to become optimistic after that. There was lots of big accounts that were saying XRP was going to go to 3 cents and that Bitcoin was going to come back down to $3,000. And that went on for months on end. And of course, during this whole time, we're going through lockdowns. We're wearing masks, we're wearing gloves to the grocery stores. Everybody's got a big stack of toilet paper and hand sanitizer at the time, right? And that was the different part. But timing wise, we were already on our way and rocking and rolling by the time we got here. Let's take a look at that. Right. So this was the banana zone that everybody was looking for. This is what all the people were looking for, the big breakouts to be happening in here back in this time period. And that's why we're sitting there saying, look, something smells funny happening in here compared to that. And that's because we don't have the expansions and that this is, I've seen a lot, right. I'm still optimistic and hopeful that this can resolve itself, right? I'm still optimistic for it and hopeful that it can, but of course concerned. But like we've shown when we went through all this, when people didn't think the top of Bitcoin was coming in, not understanding that it was one big giant super cycle happening in here, right? And so the correction showing up after here is the correction that would show up after a super cycle happening in here. And so there's a little hope and optimism in here that, you know what, it actually still even has continued to do all the same things of what a correction after a super cycle would do right on time. And so that hasn't broken yet, right? And that's like the thing to hold on to and still be like, well, that still exists there. But it sure feels like we need some type of economic surprise. And that's what I posted recently. And like when I'm doing these write-ups and we're talking about this stuff over here in the newsletters and stuff like that, your economic data is looking awfully like that, right? So we need some type of surprise to just show up where the market has been incorrectly positioned. However, this has not deviated itself away. And even the last time we reached that moment of being like, look, if it's going to continue, it's got to resolve itself. It did. Showed up 5 days late. Unlike these, which were on the literal days. Showed up 5 days late, but it did. So is there magical unicorns playing at it? We'll find out. We're going to find out soon. So, all right. No question. It's tough out there. George Alexanderopoulos, member for 14 months. Good morning. With the market rejecting the retraces and the terrible economic conditions, why are you not making videos on downside targets and structures? Well, because we're way beyond that, right? Like, it's at this point now, it's about, can we find supports, right? Markets reject, like when you're in a giant range, wrong chart. Giant range, you could draw up everything. We've talked about all these different ones in here where you could come in here, hit this range, or if the expansion happens, out, or that would be horrible, right? So you could create a ton of different ones of these, but good luck, right? You're back here. We showed this. I don't remember. We did it in markets in the morning. Where is it? I can't remember if it was it others? I'm not sure. Damn, I feel dumb. Where we pull back to our last point of support, right? Or our preliminary support. I apologize. We pull back to our preliminary support. So this very well could be your support because you have a range context that you're stuck in and you escape and then you find it. If the market crashes, like this is legit. If this is the story that ends up happening for the United States stock market, what do you think is going to happen to crypto in that event? Bad, very bad, right? And when you're in a ranging context, right? So at this point, and that's what we talked about when this happened. We said, hey, this is now going to get increasingly difficult because it's now going to be a ranging context. Everybody's going to be looking for a trend, but it's not. And there's even the possibility that it's that. Good luck, right? And not only that, the thing is, bottoms are significantly harder to find than tops. Significantly. Right? This is super easy to scream and yell about this, and especially when the crowd is ridiculously euphoric. Next, it comes, when does emotions get beat down so bad, and then we get back to a support level that it can hold? Because you can find this support level and say, hey, that's good enough. That could be the support. Maybe it's this one. Maybe it's this one. Dear God, don't be, right? If it is, this market is going to take a long time to recover, and especially if it is something like that. If it's something like that, we're in here for another 4 years, 3 years, right? That goes against the ETFs are super bullish, right? So we should be hoping that we're already there. We should be hoping that this market has done enough to go ahead and be ready to go. Because you're fighting against something different if it doesn't. And good luck to everyone out there because we don't have any historical basis to go off of. And that's what I talked about in yesterday's video. We don't have a historical basis to go off of for the entire history of the cryptocurrency market where that hasn't gone. Where 89% of the S&P 500 is trash. We have no historical basis to go off of with crypto in that. But the problem is it takes people so long to come around to the idea, which you guys watch, so I'm assuming 90% of you have come around to the idea, but so many people take forever to not realize that everything they're told about Bitcoin is a total grift and that it is just tied to risk-on environments in markets and expansions happening in markets. And no matter how many charts we overlay on top of it to show it, it's not accepted. So if this rejects, right, and this thing goes into an actual real bear, I will be very interested to see how the cryptocurrency market survives that. We're not even talking about downside targets. We're talking about how does the market survive that? Right? And I don't have downside targets. The way I would make downside targets is if we rallied and then found resistances and said, this is where problems can come in, and then we roll over, right? At this point, with it just going down and down and down, I see enough waves to say that's good enough to be it. There's no more looking for downside targets happening in here. And I'm especially not going to look at like the 1 hour and 2 hour time frame. I've got stalkers who are ready to just be like, see, you got it wrong. Mr. Nobody, hey BCV, think total needs to be close to 1.868 trillion and wick below 1.69 trillion to close out a 335 correction, then it can in? Might be this week. Let's take a look. $1.86. Is that what you said? 1.868. Either I'm struggling with my account or I'm not seeing where you're seeing 335. So essentially 335, 1, 2. Right. I'm not sure where the count's coming in, brother. Oh, wait. Close below. Oh, wick to 1.69. Has it hit the low again? See, the thing is, like, if we just continue to set new lows, it just becomes really hard not to think that this isn't going to be prolonged, right? That if we go to new lows, that it doesn't become like we're talking about this kind of stuff happening in here that's really prolonged, that ends up being something like an example here. We'll do Bitcoin first, right? Right. So if we go set a new low, it just still becomes all this worry in here of that this would be A, B, C, right? Another example of that is like this. Why does it not do it on this chart? We'll do it on Bitstamp. Take everything off here. Notice anything similar? Right? This would be years of trash ahead. So we're kind of at a point where we need to see this market turn up pretty soon, or else structurally, there's not pretty things on the chart. And there's weird dynamics happening in the market at the same time. So I personally am not shooting for new lows. And again, I keep getting drawn to that I smell a dynamic shift happening in the market, and other things like Monero. I smell things positive in the market. I'm just on edge that I know with markets, the most exciting time in all markets happens right before things hit the fan and they're really bad, right? And a lot of times the most exciting things are when the signals are already there. Like an example, all the meme coin and pump.fun stuff and craziness is all taking place in here. It's after the market's already peaked, it's already gone, then there's a rotation, and all the chaos of the market and crazy, wild, speculative stuff happens in here before it comes to a conclusion, right? And I know that can happen. And so when I think about the broader markets and macro markets, that could also happen in macro markets at the same time. But that it's all just that kind of final euphoria, final risk-taking, final extreme exuberance happening before things get kind of rough. Okay, I got to keep going. I'm going way too slow. I'm getting too close to an hour. Craig Tilbury, man, thank you very much. It's very generous. Hey, BC, have you ever looked at the correlation between the Nikkei 225 and RTY? I wouldn't say their correlations are incredibly strong. Look, macro markets in general are just going to be correlated, right? I mean, if we flatten that out a little bit, you can clearly see this is the expansionary phase of markets happening in here, right? Here's October, right? Then you run up to March, right? Bitcoin, right? Right? Bitcoin with macro markets, right? But as you can see, the Russell hasn't been able to get out, right? Like we're way beyond that. There you go. I would more like S&P maybe closer to it, right? But all the macro markets are clearly tied together, right? You could just see that here. Here's C19, right? Here's range bound for years, right? Range bound, right? This was one of those examples that we've used here, like on the S&P 500 and the Dow, where it sets a new high, but crypto doesn't follow along. Look, there, right there, you could see that Nikkei did not get broken out, and then of course the Russell didn't during that time either. There wasn't an expansion happening in the market. So I wouldn't say there's a correlation right now, but of course the macro markets are all moving together in regards to extreme sell-offs happening in there. Obviously, this one took it the absolute worst, but of course that has a lot to do with the carry trade narrative that was happening over there in Japan, right? Where they raised interest rates by 0.25%. We get a horrible unemployment figure here in the United States, where the Fed also signals they're going to do a rate hike. The market starts pricing in a 50 basis point rate cut rather than a 0.25% rate cut. And then, you get the big spread get closed out, right? Essentially borrow money from Japan really cheap. just go buy yourself some treasuries, right? And that spread got fear closed really quickly. And, this has been the cheap, easy money for the longest period of time over here in Japan, even way longer than the United States. Thank you, brother. It was very generous. But boy, I am way behind. All right. One Rough Rican says, good day in Massachusetts. Living in Massachusetts, great to see John Deaton win the Republican primary, LFG. I know, that's amazing. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I mean, I can. I just can't believe I know a guy. You know what I mean? Like, I've met John 4 or 5 times in person. I've eaten dinner with a guy, Florin M, member for 3 months. Everybody's at work on our crypto chat channel. It's super pessimistic. I mean, everybody. That's a good thing. The market's beaten up, right? It's always darkest before things turn better. So hopefully that's the case. Pat, brother, I hope you're doing well, man. You are up late, sir. And of course, I'm getting late to you about 30 minutes after you gifted 5 BCB memberships. Brother, thank you very much. Is Polyfrog run on Matic? I don't know. Larry, thank you very much, Mo. Larry Chisholm. Good morning, BCB. Quite a few top 100 alts look like they're at last point of supply of phase D distribution and heading towards phase E. For alts that goes lower than the August 5th low, is it safe to say those are in distribution? I would think so. I think it's less even focusing just about particular alts in general. It's the whole market in general, right? It's, we have watched this dynamic happen where there's been no expansion on things like Coinbase. And if we see bigger breakdowns happen in here, your arguments just get real difficult, and it's not even just about individual altcoins. But I think so many of them are so beaten up, right? At this point, it's more of like, either you're going to take a shot or you're not going to take a shot, right? The retracement level was hit 6 months ago. That was the time where the fear should have been instilled in people. And right now, like, there's a lot of fear in people, and I don't think I've had that fear for months on end when we were approaching the peaks and we weren't seeing expansions happening in the market. And I was expressing that fear, but the market was in euphoria. And so, like, the market doesn't really listen to that when you're in euphoria. When the market's in euphoria, that fear is there. The market's really lagged. The emotional sentiment of markets is really lagged behind what should be actually happening. And we've pulled down so far from smashing into those retracement levels that every 5% feels extremely painful at this point, right? Every 10% feels like extreme pain at this point. And that's just because it's been prolonged for so long. But these are the times where it's like, is it rational to be that extremely fearful, or should you be looking for supports and looking for things to turn around at this point? I can make the case for both, right? The case at the retracement levels was the big thing, and the big alarming thing that was happening right when we hit the retracement levels was gold was breaking out. And we've talked about that. Like, I've gone through that in newsletters and everything, that you can see it. Like, the second gold breaks out, that's where things get dicey. And it's, we can, and I've shown this. When our brains look at it in this manner, we think to themselves that it's going at the same time, but it's not. Like, right, we were right near our peak, right? We were coming up on just 1 week out from peak, right? The gold breaks out, and that's the alarming signal, right? If gold starts pulling back, well, then it's it's not so much that it's a fear trade anymore. But at that time, that's when it was really fearful. And I get more fearful when I'm, at that moment, at that retracement level. It's real scary. But the market turns real sour on itself after the move, right? The market becomes real euphoric, right? What are we in? The wall of worry, the wall of worry, the wall of worry, euphoria, right? And then things are okay. Things are okay. Banana zone, banana zone. I don't know. Banana zone, banana zone. Oh, man. Okay. Wait, no. This market's trash. We need to find downside targets now. And it's like, nah, I mean, we've gone far. I think there's a reason to try to be optimistic, but we're at a very critical moment on determining whether or not crypto is even safe from macro markets. And that's why we're waiting on Friday. Right, but I can create lots of cases. Back to Larry. Larry, I'm sorry, sorry, Ben. Like creating like arguments in here too. Like when I look at things like Litecoin, if you were going to do Wyckoff on that, what would you say? Right, and I'm not here to say Litecoin is going to take over the world. It's a dino coin, right? Right, but I see selling climax, right? Automatic rally, secondary test, right? Then we move over to secondary test in phase B, and then spring. Right, like right. And market sentiment is always just trash at the lows. So hopefully there's a surprise. Wick 589. If you get any earnings in the banana zone, would you call that money banana bread? Oh boy. Is my wife there in the chat thinking crypto? What's up, brother? Is my wife there in the chat cracking terrible jokes right now? No, I don't see her. Boy, she was making notes. Yes, making notes yesterday, preparing to. Yes. Okay. All right, Mint Man gifted 5 BCB memberships, brother. Thank you very much. And Wick 589, thank you for the corny joke. Jack, member for 34 months. Man, let's go. 9 weeks until election day. It's about to get wild. Stay sane, everybody. Yes, stay sane. And that's what also is just kind of crazy when we go through all these things too, right? We are at the longest period post-capitulation. In a few days, we're going to be at the longest period post-peak, right? 4-year cycles on block reward halvings, nonsense. And the thing about all these breakouts, of course, when they happen like right after the elections and have ended up happening. So it's just going to continue to leave that tease out there. If it doesn't go through, it's like, well, look at the last ones, right? Markets all expanded right after the election was over. Gosh, please, Lord, do not do that to us. But yeah, as for events, you know how the summer went, right? What was it? Biden does his thing with Trump, his debate, right? Then the next weekend, Trump gets attempted at, and then Biden drops out. We are within 9 weeks, right? What do they call it? The October surprise, right? That's what you always call it, the October surprise. DXY is dropping. I saw that on the side of my screen. There you go, DXY rolling. Tony Wynn, BCB, what are your thoughts on Ripple pivoting to Ethereum on the XRP level? Love to hear your thoughts, and thank you. Well, most do. you have to understand the frustration that is happening out there with a lot of people right now that things that we've talked. And I've kind of quieted down on talking about the developer stuff and everything like that with Ripple and everything. And I did what I could. Right? I pretty much said all I could. But if you understand the frustration, if you're seeing that out there with people kind of frustrated and all the developers really frustrated at Ripple, right? And that's another thing we talk about. Like, there's a lot of people who are in this. It's the global reserve currency, right? Ripple's doing plans within plans. They've just kept it secrets for 11 years and not told anybody about it. And it's just totally a secret. That's awesome. But that the actions don't say that. The actions say that it's a lot of kind of whack-a-mole of trying to figure out what to do with XRP, and it hasn't really been figured out. But the gatekeepers of all the money and the people who are selling all the XRP is Ripple. And they've made a lot of promises, and then they waffle back and forth on what they're going to do, and then they don't follow through with them, and then they pivot and change, and then they never. And it's suspected there are some people that are paid. I don't think there's any content creators that are paid by Ripple, but like RippleX Dev, provide having community managers and things like that to kind of keep the positivity going. I don't have evidence of that, but I've been told that by multiple people. So we're 11 years into XRP, and everybody has screamed for smart contracts for forever. And then suddenly, Ripple's finally like, let's do smart contracts. It's like, it's kind of just late to everything all the time, right? NFTs came a year and a half late, right? Automatic market makers for total value lock come really late, and they really haven't gained any traction. And then smart contracts coming, but there's already been hooks built, and they're wanting to start something new and do something completely different. And it's just it's not that people aren't excited to have smart contracts. It's something that XRP is absolutely needed. And I know this just from trying to do the NFT stuff and being there and wanting to do things and talking to all the people, XP Market on XRP, and people much smarter in the room than me. And they're like, yeah, we can't do that because we don't have smart contracts. We can't do that. We can't do that. And we're talking just simple things. Like with the NFT collection, there's lots of different movies in there, right? And I wanted to have each individual movie be part of its own different thing and it not all be tied together into the same collection, but here's this part, here's this part, here's this part. And it seems so simple to be able to do that, but you can't because there's not smart contracts. And the functionality, there's just not much to be able to do. And so we definitely need the smart contracts, regardless of how we get them. But I don't think people want to wait anymore, and people are kind of getting tired of Ripple being the gatekeeper and Ripple kind of hiding in the shadows and not being able to communicate with them. You speak things openly, you get no responses. They kind of play into the game of letting the conspiracy theories run wild and just staying in the shadows and letting that happen, rather than being a proactive member of trying to solve issues. Hey, look at that. The stock market has flipped pretty green. Crypto Man X. Can you tell me how bad it is in baseball terms? Okay. What would be a baseball analogy to where we are right now? It's the bottom of the ninth inning. Your team is down by 1. You have 1 out, but you also have a man on second base, but you're down by a run. Silverpunk Skull. September in general past is bad for crypto. I saw that chart posted out there too. And it's funny, if you do go through it and you look at like Octobers, those tend to be the rally months too. That's also when we ended up rallying. here. So September, like look through here, like how often we've seen it just sell-offs happen in August. We even had that one. Wow. There's always moments in my time where I can remember specific events, like this one right in here. This one is September 3rd. This was where the market was very trashy. The sentiment was incredibly trashy. This is where people are saying XRP is going to 6 cents. This is where Bitcoin's going back to $3,000. I've told that story many times. We had to fight through all of that. That is there late August, early September. This one over here, remember, this is sudden liquidation that takes place out of nowhere. That one's on August. And then we kind of just drift here throughout September. And then October is the liftoff and things get going. So we've definitely seen those cyclical behaviors happen before. But September in itself, necessarily being like a sell-off month or anything like that, it seems more like August can be kind of that month. But historically, just month-wise, September typically hasn't been too exciting. However, October several times has been when things have gotten exciting before. It's hard for me to put any bet on that, to say the month is this and the month is going to be that, because they don't have 100% hit rates. Just like everything, nothing has a 100% hit rate. Neither do picking the months. Some event could happen in a month that changes that and makes it not like that. And September doesn't have a 100% hit rate. Nobody just to witness crypto was all fun until someone gets hurt. Yeah. Carl of Fable. Hey, BCB, happy Frog Day. When return to daily morning live stream? It's been a rough summer not having your guidance in the morning. Even my coffee tastes different. Please come back soon. Oh, man. Well, I've talked about this a lot in the different streams. It's a weighing out of it. Like, it's either we get a lot of videos and we do markets in the morning once per week, or we do markets in the morning every day and we don't really get any videos. And according to just the data I look at in regards to like watch time, people liking videos and versus liking live streams, everything like that, the general consensus is more videos over more live streams. And I even see that like people like, I like this general honest truth. I don't care about like obtaining new subscribers. I reached this insane level that I never thought would happen in my life. I never in my wildest dreams thought I'd hit 200,000 subscribers. It's the most bizarre thing in the entire universe. It's an absolute dream and insane that I get to get on my computer and do this every day, something I enjoy doing, something that I would be doing if I didn't have a YouTube channel, is just sitting here staring at this stuff all the time. So I'm beyond shocked that there's 2,000 people who are in a live stream right now listening to me just ramble my mouth and play a stupid frog every Wednesday morning. It's full of gratitude in my life. So it's not I don't have a target to sit here and say I want to get to 1 million subscribers. It's not something I'm passionate about doing. I'm super happy with where I'm at, and I never thought it would get this big. But it's a measurement of like being able to tell what are people enjoying more, right? Like when we're doing daily live streams every single day, you just kind of see that the follower count kind of drifts down, which shows you that people are less interested in seeing that type of content. Whereas when we're doing more videos, the follower count increases. And it's not necessarily that I care about like growing 1,000 subscribers per month, but it's more of like it gives me a gauge to say what is it that people actually enjoy more, right? I don't want to make content that people don't like. If I'm going to put my effort into it, I want to make stuff that people like. And you know, it seems to be that people prefer videos more than live streams, but the live streams give me a chance to come hang out with you guys and be there. And so I don't want to give that up either. But doing it every day, I think I did it for over a year, live streams every single weekday. And I just got enough experience under my belt by doing that to know, can I physically, mentally, and emotionally handle doing that and making videos every day? And I learned I couldn't. Not as a one-man show, I couldn't. And I also don't know if I want to like hire employees and video editors and all that stuff to do a lot of the work for me and turn this into some major production. I kind of like it the way it is. I don't know. I've said that for years. I need to hire somebody, right? So, yeah, I don't know. You know, maybe if the market got really crazy or something like that, and it was like, look, we're probably just going to do this for a couple of weeks or something like that. Maybe if there's a lot to talk about every day, we'll see. Michael Shaw, New member, welcome, man. Nobody just did witness. I sold my silver and 3 were fake. It was disheartening. Yeah, it stinks, man. You know, I've definitely run into situations where I've bought something fake before, and primarily that was on eBay. Otherwise, like all the things that I buy them from reputable dealers, either online or I go to a local coin shop, and just kind of vet. I already know if I'm going to be buying. I kind of already know who I'm buying from at this point. There's been so many years, but that's kind of the hard thing going through it in the beginning. Your friendly NP says, hey, BCB, USAHP home prices appears to be ranging between 2.618 and 1.618 from financial crisis. Am I delusional to think this means anything? I've never looked at this. That's awesome. I don't know. It's funny because I look at other stuff. I don't know where I've seen other charts. Maybe I've looked like Zillow charts and stuff like that. That I've seen very similar to this when I'm looking at Zillow charts and stuff. That it's like double tap, breakout, right? And like I've suspected, there's got to be a day that it violently backtests those levels. And right, where the home prices we're at today just aren't sustainable, but that actually would only be short-lived. But this was crazy, right? That we get into C19 and the government propped it up to make it impossible for foreclosures to happen, and that no dip came from that. That was crazy. You know, I mean, the thing about, right, so this isn't traded like with bots, right? Like when we're looking at charts and algorithms and everything like that, this isn't traded with bots and algorithms, but that's interesting, isn't that? But it's part of like just the magic of the universe and how far prices can get stretched before they're just not sustainable anymore. And we kind of already know housing has gotten to just a complete unaffordability crisis at this point. And I saw TXMC trades posting about that on Twitter today, that like home prices in the United States are 6.5 times median income, which is like a historical high. You know, the millennial maybe not necessarily millennial, but you know, if you're under, I don't know what age, but anyway, first-time home buyers are priced out of the market, right? I mean, it's truly ridiculous how much they have to pay for a teeny tiny itty bitty house right now, and they're completely priced out. That doesn't seem sustainable to happen. But it's also interesting to think that there are all those people living in those apartments and who are renting, who are ready to come in and scoop the market at some point if it ever does end up coming. So I actually think it would be short-lived if it did, but I would bet we would see something. And one thing that would cause that, right, what would cause a downturn in home prices would be unemployment, right? People unemployed, can't afford their mortgage, it's time to sell it. I think the difference is that we do not have the same scenario that we had back in 2008, where you're going to see people walking away from their houses and they take the blinds with them as they leave overnight, because there's so much equity, and there's not all those crazy mortgages written right now. But it still feels like there's got to be a downturn at some point. Just how long will that last? Jay Jacob, member for 15 months. We're making it to the finish line. It's now or never. P.S. Shouldn't the run last longer than 2 months, considering many alts aren't at spring phase? I'm only going based on this. If you go based on this, that's how much time you got. If it takes longer than that, then it takes longer than that. But we can just use examples, and I can provide you things of saying, look, this is how it played out. If we play out something like that, the market would be euphoric, the market would be exciting. And also to think of it in the lens of it's likely the same scenario. If we expand, 80% of altcoins did not even get beyond retraces in 2021. And you would have to think it's going to be similar to that or worse. The numbers will not be favorable. Or, like here, this is the 70x alt season. I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see how things pan out. First step, of course, is to get this puppy. And we were getting a nice little bounce this morning to get this puppy to do something. So, all right, we are at an hour and 15 minutes, guys. I appreciate all of you so much for tuning in here. Happy Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, my It is Wednesday, dudes.
Otherwise, guys, you can check out the newsletter that was posted there just a couple of days ago at blockchainbacker.substack.com. Sivo says, no, we want more. Man, I don't know how much more I can ramble about. Let's get through the unemployment on Friday. But there you go. Quite a few days of just, and then, or really just 2 days of it. But there you go. A little bit of a move to kick off the day. We'll see how things go as we got a lot of green today. That'll work. But all right, guys, that's going to be it for this one. Check out the newsletter at blockchainbacker.substack.com and have yourself an absolutely wonderful day. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you could, please like the live stream and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a great one, everybody. Thank you.